election as well. Remember, we're still garnering so much of this reaction coming in from Washington as well, including and especially there on Capitol Hill. That's where we find my friend Fox's Rebecca Castor with more details. She joins me. Rebecca, good to see you here. Hope you had a good weekend. It's been quite a historic weekend, and yet another historic weekend here. What are Democratic Capitol Hill allies saying about the Harris endorsement from Biden? Are they all in?
Well, Andrew, it seems like by and large, the Democrat Party is rallying around Vice President Kamala Harris, and she scored a big endorsement here today from former House Speaker Nancy Pelosi. Harris's first stop, Delaware, to meet with staffers of the re-election campaign, ready to pass the torch. She inherits more than 1,000 of Biden's staffers and a nearly $96 million war chest if it's not held up by lawsuits. Harris's list of endorsements is also quickly growing, along with the support of other potential Biden replacements, Governors Gretchen Whitmer, Gavin Newsom, and Andy Beshear.
I think you're going to find the Democratic Party is very united.
Harris is also set to meet with Hakeem Jeffries and Chuck Schumer, the two top Democrats in Congress.
Vice President Kamala Harris has excited the community. Former President Donald Trump and extreme MAGA Republicans are having a meltdown right now.
At a White House event earlier today, Vice President Harris honored President Joe Biden for his accomplishments.
In one term, he has already surpassed the legacy of most presidents who have served 2 terms in office.
While she's certainly favored, Harris still needs to shore up delegates to officially win the presidential nomination. Meanwhile, the political attacks from the Trump-Vance campaign have already started.
When I see her give a speech, and she talks about the history of this country, not with appreciation, but with condemnation.
Because we need a Jamaica, we need America, need a man president to see how it's about. We don't want a Trump, we don't want a problem.
And Andrew, tonight the DNC has confirmed that they will select their presidential nominee by August 7th, meaning that they're going to move forward with their virtual roll call before their convention. Andrew.
You know, Rebecca, you and I were discussing all last week while you were at the RNC, this pending debate at the time between Vance and Harris. It seems like that's no longer on the table for obvious reasons here. Do we have any idea about what the debate picture is going to look like going into the fall? Maybe we don't.
Yeah, that's something that we're not even hearing about quite yet. It seems like both campaigns haven't even discussed that at this point. I don't even think that they've received any invitations from any networks out there. There was originally that CBS debate, I believe, between agreed upon by Trump and Biden that was scheduled for September. We'll see if now the new candidate, Kamala Harris, will agree to that, and if Trump is still on board now, debating somebody else on stage.
Yeah, that'll be something to watch. Rebecca Castor there, live for us on Capitol Hill. Thanks so much. Talk soon. All right, in the meantime here, we're going to take a quick commercial break. I want to put up this tweet here. Take a look at this from Alex Gangitano there at the Hill. They say that the DNC has a new plan with Biden out. They will move forward with the virtual roll call to have a presidential nominee by August the 7th. On a call with reporters, Harris's name was never mentioned. The DNC will use an electronic voting, and candidates have to have at least 300 delegate signatures. So remember, right now, Harris almost has the threshold that she needs delegate-wise, but say some insurgent Democratic candidate wants to put their name in the running, they need to get at least 300 delegate signatures to do that. And that's before the roll call on August the 7th. Remember, before August 7th, they would have to do that. It doesn't necessarily mean that all this is going to happen on the floor of the convention in person in Chicago in late August. So time. Remember last night we were reporting that Senator Joe Manchin, the independent
all night
Virginia,
until I'm done,
kind of was teasing whether or not he would throw his hat in the ring there as well. He walked that back today on some of the morning shows, saying he has no intention to run for the nomination there. If he did that, remember, he would have to switch his party affiliation back to the Democratic Party. Remember, he just did the switch about a month ago to register as an independent there. So Manchin was somewhat teasing that last night in the wake of the news on Biden not running for re-election there. But yet another mini news cycle that went nowhere with Manchin. All right, in the meantime here, let's take a quick commercial break. We'll see you in 2 minutes.
The Roku experience you love is in the palm of your hand. Ready to dive back in? It's easy to continue watching what you love and pick up right where you left off. Staying connected to the entertainment you love is always a tap away. Download the Roku mobile app today. Welcome backstage. This is where you get all access. That'd be so nice. Hollywood mysteries. Elvis fell over. Something was wrong. Chilling investigations. Whitney, when introduced to drugs, couldn't handle it. Prince is dead. Notorious scandals and crimes. How am I supposed to be really having all these villains in my life? Real drama, real celebrity. Watch now. The #1 destination
is not on the line.
for today's most exciting trial. I feel the innocent pen. Emmy-nominated
Hello.
true crime programming.
Not guilty.
My part of the gossip.
I'm here.
Driving social media followers.
Trying to finish up this week.
This active crime scene.
It's one thing to see it on camera, it's another thing to be there.
This is live.
I'm trying my TV down. Remember my TV too high, huh? This needs battery, you know. This I get put the battery and put on different battery.
About my business. I wish that I could just get a little help. From all the places and things that I've seen, this is #1.
Liza coaching. I want to help other young adults give back to their selfless, deserving parents.
My mom's the most selfless person I know.
Yeah. Whoa. It's tired.
And welcome back here to Live Now from Fox and our continuing coverage of what was quite the historic Sunday. President Biden deciding not to run for re-election in the wake of his poor debate
But no,
performance
this is
on
not
stage
surprising
there
for me.
in
It's not
Atlanta.
surprising me that he's
Remember,
not
that was
running.
June the 27th. It took him until July the 21st to ultimately make that decision after he heard from many senior Democratic voices within the party echoing some of the concerns from their rank and file
Not
members.
freaking
Remember, that
surprising.
number was growing. It almost approached 40 House and Senate Democrats who were calling on Biden to drop out of the race. Biden made this decision. He only told a very, very small number of advisors before he made it public. Some of his staffers, very close staffers, didn't know until it appeared there on social media. We have that reporting as well. Well, anyway, President Biden did, though, call in to his former campaign headquarters in Wilmington today. Vice President Harris and the second gentleman, Doug Emhoff, spoke to now Harris staffers as they work to switch up the campaign going into the fall here. So we want to let you listen in. Julie Chavez Rodriguez, she is the senior campaign advisor for now the Harris campaign, had Biden on the cell phone, and this was Biden's message to his supporters. Let's listen.
And now I'd like to introduce a man who we all admire and respect because he has done and continues to do so much for our country. Mr. President, thank you for calling in today. Over to you.
Julie, if I didn't have COVID, I'd be sitting there with you, standing there with you. I'm so proud of what you've all done. And with this COVID, keep me out of people's hair for the next 3 or 4 days. But I'm going to be on the road. I'm not going anywhere. It's kept me away a little bit. But, you know, I want people to remember that what we have done has been incredible. And we get so much more we're going to get done. And so I want to say hello to Kamala. If she can hear me, I know she's going to be speaking shortly. And I want to say to the team, embrace her. She's the best. I want to call today and thank everybody in this effort. I know yesterday's news was surprising, And it's hard for you to hear, but it was the right thing to do. I know it's hard because you poured your heart and soul into me to help us win this thing, help me get this nomination, help me win the nomination, and then go on to win the presidency. But you know, you're an amazing team, but we've got a great, I think we made the right decision. I know how hard you worked, how many sacrifices you made, and so many of you uprooted your lives for me, and the kind of commitment few people make for anything these days, but you made it. And I've been honored and humbled. I mean this from the bottom of my heart. My word is abiding for all you've done for me and my family. And we built the best campaign in organization in history. I've been doing this, I always kid and say, I know I'm only 40, but I've been around a long time. I don't know of a better campaign organization, grassroots campaign. You know, we have over 230 offices opened. We have over 2,000 paid staff. And we have literally several thousand volunteers on a regular basis, thousands of them. And they've been relentless and tireless in reaching out and contacting voters. The leadership of this campaign has been amazing. General Dillon, Julie Quinn, Michael Tyler, Rob Flaherty, Rufus on raising money, and so many more. You built this team, you brought them together, you brought us together, you've inspired them, and you've done what leaders do. Now we gotta, you know, the name has changed the top of the ticket. But the mission hasn't changed at all. And by the way, I'm not going anywhere. I'm going to be out there in the campaign with her.
Yes, I remember. How are you?
Both as a city president.
How are you doing?
As well
Fabiloko?
You know, what we still need to save this democracy. And some,
how are you doing? How are you doing today?
The community is a danger to the nation. And just ask my foreign policy colleagues, my counterparts, and other people around the world and at home. Look, so I'm hoping you'll give every bit of your heart and soul that you gave to me and Kamala. And I want you to know, I won't be on the ticket, but I'm still going to be fully engaged. I've got 6 months left in my presidency. I'm determined to get as much done as I possibly can, both foreign policy and domestic policy. Keep lowering costs for families, continue to speak out on guns and child care, elder care, prescription drugs, and climate. Climate still is the existential threat that we face, and if we don't win this thing, it's all in jeopardy. And we got to keep working for an end to the war in Gaza. I'll be working very closely with the Israelis and with the Palestinians to try to work out how we can get the Gaza war to end and Middle East peace and get all those hostages home. I think we're on the verge of being able to do that. And we got to keep our alliances together. It's critically important. It took a while for me to build these alliances. Most of these are my colleagues have acknowledged that, but it's critically important for our safety and security. And I know I'll be doing whatever Kamala wants me and needs me to do in addition. So let me be real clear. We're still
Trump
fighting
cannot be
this fight
trusted.
together.
Trump is
I'm
not a
going
person that
anywhere.
can be trusted
I
at
want you to
all.
know you've always had my back, and I promise you, I will always have your back. And I'm anxious for you all to hear from Kamala. So thank you, Julie. You're the best.
Thank you so much, Mr. President.
All right, that got live there to the White House. Wanted you to listen to that. Remember, President Biden had said in his statement that he would speak to the American people at some time this week. He says, I will speak to the nation later this week in more detail about my decision. Of course, there were no public events on his Monday schedule, so we still don't have any timing yet on when President Biden might choose to do just that. We don't know which day, I should say. So in the meantime, we'll keep a lookout for when that timing gets a little more clear. Let's take a quick commercial break, our final one of the hour. When we come back, though, you'll hear from Vice President Harris, speaking to now Harris campaign staffers there in Wilmington. We'll see you in 2 minutes.
Your rich melanin skin is the reason we created New Shea Moisture Whole Body Deodorants. They protect beyond, freshen around, all day invisibly, no aluminum, plant-based, living in my rich melanin and protecting you too.
If you're driven by an adventurous heart, you're in luck. The 2024 Subaru Outback shares your spirit. With standard symmetrical all-wheel drive and up to 32 miles per gallon. Plus, 97% of Outback vehicles sold in the last 10 years are still on the road today. The 2024 Subaru Outback. Go where love takes you.
Get 2.9% APR financing for 72 months on the new 2024 Outback. Going on down.
Shades of Black. We gon' celebrate Black culture. Shades of Black is your playlist for epic movies.
We're gonna have to charge you clean.
Fan favorite series.
I'm sorry. Not your problem.
Plus, bold comedy.
I wish the light in here was brighter.
Watch now.
No identification, no purse, no wallet, no passport. A chameleon, constantly changing identities, allowing him to kill across 3 different countries.
I had a really great time with you tonight. So are you gonna work tomorrow?
No.
I guess I'll see you then.
That you and Parker clicked, and that didn't happen with anyone else. Maybe he needs a chance to fall in love with you again.
And welcome back here to Live Now from Fox. I'm Andrew Kraft. Hope you had a good weekend. Hope you had a good Monday here. We're still following all the reporting coming in on this sea change in Democratic Party politics and in American history. Joe Biden announcing just yesterday that he will not seek re-election. Of course, you know he's 81 years old. He was facing a lot of pressure to do just this in the wake of that poor debate performance in Atlanta in late June here. And now he has endorsed his vice president, Kamala Harris, to be the next Democratic nominee here. Well, as you know, nominees need delegates to officially, formally accept the nomination here. I want to put this tweet up from Andrew Solinder there at Axios. He says, during a virtual meeting of California delegates, former Speaker Pelosi made the motion to endorse Harris. Solinder was told the endorsement gives Harris enough delegates to become the nominee there. So we have some reporting in from this call that was held by the DNC today. Jamie Harrison, who is the chairman of the party, said this on the call, that they're committed to an open and fair nominating process. He says the work ahead may be unprecedented, but we're prepared to take a transparent, swift, and orderly process. Harrison says this, let me be clear, we remain laser focused on winning in November. He says we will deliver a presidential.
I have to try and move this closer. Hold on. I'll see if I can move this closer.
Harris, like I said, visited campaign headquarters there in Wilmington. They're now her campaign headquarters. Here's what she had to say.
That's slippery. Ships. There's a lot of woman haters out for Kamala now. A lot of woman haters. They're chatting a lot of stuff. They're chatting a lot of stuff, guys. A lot of stuff.
Voice. Joe, I know you're still on the call, and we've been talking every day. You guys heard it from Doug's voice. We love Joe and Jill. We really do. They truly are like family to us, and we everybody here loves it.
It's Mitchell.
I knew you were still there. You're not going anywhere, Joe.
I'm watching you, kid. I'm watching you, kid. I love you.
I love you, Joe. So, Joe, I'm going to recognize some of the electeds who are here, and then I'm going to get back to you. Hold on a second. So let me please.
I want to put the camera closer, guys, but I don't have anywhere to put it.
Who are also dear friends, both to the president and to me. Governor John Carney, where are you? There you are. And his wife, they are here. Senator Tom Carper, my former colleague. His wife is here. Chris Coons, my dear friend. Attorney General Kathy Jennings. The mayor is here. President, where are you? Here. And the next United States Senator from the great state of Delaware is here. And I know everyone here has seen these elected leaders in this very campaign office on a regular basis. And I know Joe is so thankful to them for their lifelong friendship, but I want to thank them also because you guys have really been carrying some heavy water from the first days of our campaign. So thank you all. This truly is a Delaware family. Thank you. I want to thank Jen O'Malley Dillon. Where is she, Jen? I'm going to talk about her in a minute. Julie Chavez Rodriguez. Sheila Nix. And the entire team that is here. I want to thank all of you and those who are joining from offices across our nation. So Doug and I wanted to stop by today to thank everybody and to express just what we know to be true. You all have been working so hard. The people in this office have been working so hard. And you have given so much of yourselves, long days and nights, what you are sacrificing in terms of the time you could be spending with other friends and other family. And you're giving yourselves to our country because you love our country and you love Joe and you love me, and we know that. And so today, just right after Joe made his announcement, it was important for me to continue with his role of leadership in this office, of like him, who has said for many, many, many months, and I say it today, thank you all so very much for what you are doing and what you will continue to do. So let's applaud. And I know it's been a roller coaster, and we're all filled with so many mixed emotions about this. I just have to say, I love Joe Biden. I love Joe Biden, and I know we all do. And we have so many darn good reasons for loving Joe Biden. And I have full faith that this team will be the reason we win in November. You all who are here. And as Julie always says, and I will quote the great Julie, we are one team, one fight. And she's been an extraordinary campaign manager. She's going to continue in this role and see us to victory in November. And we are all here because we love our country, right? And we believe in our foundational principles. We believe in freedom and opportunity and justice, not for some, but for all. And so we have 106 days until Election Day, and in that time we have some hard work to do. And as JOD always reminds us, we can do hard things. Incredible leader of this team, and that is why I have just asked her to run my campaign, and she has accepted. And so over the next 106 days, we are going to take our case to the American people, and we are going to win. We are going to win.
Possible, but we're not sure.
And so now I'm getting back to you, Joe. I will tell you all, it has
Don't be
been
a strong
one
woman
of the greatest
president,
honors of my life.
That'll be a strong woman
Vice
president. She's a strong lady.
President Joe Biden. Joe's legacy of accomplishment.
I time for them give a woman a chance, no.
A lifetime, but just over the last 3.5 years is unmatched in modern history. In one term, he has already surpassed the legacy of most presidents who served 2 terms in office. Think about it. And I know everyone here in the campaign, we know. But
can hear the TV?
If we don't know, we got a problem. But I'm going to repeat some for those who might be guests at the moment.
Joe got the COVID-19 pandemic under control. Remember those
Sounds
days?
good.
He has created more than 15 million new jobs. He brought together Republicans and Democrats and passed historic legislation. I'm a first-hand witness to all this. I would sit with Joe in the Oval Office while he would bring members of both sides of the aisle and talk and listen and help them see what they may have in common and how we can actually work towards solutions. And because of their confidence in Joe, these accomplishments occurred. Joe has stood up for democracy at home, and he has stood up for democracy abroad, and he has always stood up for what he believes is right. And many of you may know, I first came to know Joe through his son, Beau. Beau and I worked together as state attorneys general. And back then, Beau would often tell me stories about his dad. And he would talk about the kind of father and the kind of man that Joe Biden is. And he would talk about the qualities of his father. And the qualities that Beau revered the most are the same qualities that I see every day in our president. His honesty, his integrity, his commitment to his faith and his family, his big, big heart, and his deep love of our country.
You have too much of a heart.
And I don't need to tell you all, you know.
Joe Biden too kind. Joe Biden want for can. Give away the whole of the
he has never
money.
forgotten where he comes from. And so again, I am a first-hand witness from being with him in the Oval Office to the Situation Room and seeing him on the global stage with world leaders. President Joe Biden fights for the American people, and we are deeply, deeply grateful for his service to our nation.
I'm watching.
I knew it.
Love you, girl. You're the best, kid.
And let us be very clear, Joe is not done. Far from it. He knows there is still more work to do, and our nation will continue to praise his bold and visionary leadership as president. Thank you, Joe.
Thank you.
And it is my great honor to have Joe's endorsement in this race. And it is my intention to go out and earn this nomination and to win.
You're so pretty.
So in the days and weeks ahead, I, together with you, will do everything in my power to unite our Democratic Party, to unite our nation, and to win this election. You know, as many of you know, before I was elected as Vice President, before I was elected as United States Senator, I was the elected Attorney General, as I've mentioned, of California. Before that, I was a courtroom prosecutor. In those roles, I took on perpetrators of all kinds.
Yep. True. True. So the prosecutor. Not used to do for true. A serious drug.
Predators who abused women. Fraudsters who ripped off consumers. Cheaters who broke the rules for their own gain. So hear me when I say, I know Donald Trump's type.
Hey, 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 hey. Hey, I can't manage. Whoa, no matter. Whoa. Come on, me know you can't go up to him, Me know you can't go up to him.
I will proudly put my record against his.
You know you can't go up to him. You know him can't go
As
up
a
to
young
Kamala.
prosecutor, when I was in the Alameda
You know
County
she can't
District
manage him.
Attorney's Office in California, I specialized
I'm not for about
in cases
Kamala.
involving sexual abuse. Donald Trump was found liable by a jury for committing sexual abuse. As Attorney General of California, I took on one of our country's largest for-profit colleges and put it out of business. Donald Trump ran a for-profit college, Trump University, that was forced to pay $25 million to the students it scammed. As district attorney, to go after polluters, I created one of the first environmental justice units in our nation. Donald Trump stood in Mar-a-Lago and told big oil lobbyists he would do their bidding for a $1 billion campaign contribution. During the foreclosure crisis, I took on the big Wall Street banks and won $20 billion for California families, holding those banks accountable for fraud. Donald Trump was just found guilty of 34 counts of fraud. But make no mistake, all of that being said, this campaign is not just about us versus Donald Trump. There is more to this campaign than that. Our campaign has always been about two different versions of what we see as the future of our country, two different visions for the future of our country. One focused on the future, the other focused on the past. Donald Trump wants to take our country backward to a time before many of our fellow Americans had full freedoms and rights. But we believe in a brighter future that makes room for all Americans. We believe in a future where every person has the opportunity not just to get by, but to get ahead. We believe in a future where no child has to grow up in poverty, where every person can buy a home, start a family, and build wealth.
True, we can't believe in the upper class to get money.
Access to paid family leave and affordable child care. That's the future we see. Together we fight to build a nation where every person has affordable health care, where every worker is paid fairly, and where every senior can retire with dignity. All of this is to say, building up the middle class will be a defining goal of my presidency. Because we here know when our middle class is strong, America is strong. And we know that's not what the future Donald Trump is fighting for.
Nah, vote all I want to see that a man they do. Me nah vote back for the man. Vote for the man. I don't know what I'm saying though.
Extreme Project 2025 will weaken the middle class and bring us back.
Trump is a crook.
Back to the failed trickle-down policies that gave huge tax breaks to billionaires and big corporations and made working families pay the cost.
That them want to
Back to policies that put Social Security and Medicare on the chopping block. Back to policies that treat health care as only a privilege for the wealthy instead of what we all know it should be, which is a right for every American. America has tried these economic policies before. They do not lead to prosperity. They lead to inequity and economic injustice. And we are not going back. We are not going back. They're not taking us back. Our fight for the future is also a fight for freedom. Generations of Americans before us have led the fight for freedom, from our founders to our framers, to the abolitionists and the suffragettes, to the freedom riders and farm workers. And now I say, team, the baton is in our hands. We who believe in the sacred freedom to vote. We who are committed to fight to pass the John Lewis Voting Rights Advancement Act and the Freedom to Vote Act. We who believe in the freedom to live safe from gun violence. And that's why we will work to pass universal background checks, red flag laws, and an assault weapons ban. We who will fight for reproductive freedom.
Carl, come watch this.
If Trump gets the chance, he will sign a national abortion ban to outlaw abortion in every single state, but we are not going to let that happen. It is this team here that is going to help in this November to elect a majority of members of the United States Congress who agree the government should not be telling a woman what to do with her body.
That is true. That is true. I'm not gonna lie. Nobody not supposed to tell her to do their body. You can't do this or you can't do that.
Congress passes a law to restore reproductive freedoms, as President of the United States, I will sign it into law. Indeed, we the people. So ultimately, to all the friends here, I say, in this election, we know we each face a question: what kind of country do we want to live in? A country of freedom, compassion, and rule of law? Yes. Or a country of chaos, fear, and hate? You all are here because you as leaders know we each, including our neighbors and our friends and our family, we each as Americans have the power to answer that question. That's the beauty of it, the power of the people. We each have the ability to answer that question. So in the next 106 days, we have work to do. We have doors to knock on, we have people to talk to, we have phone calls to make, and we have an election to win. So, are you ready to get to work? Do we believe in freedom? Do we believe in opportunity? Do we believe in the promise of America? And are we willing to fight for it? And when we fight, God bless you all, and God bless the United States of America and Joe Biden.
All right, there you have it. Those were some of the first remarks Vice President Harris has made in the wake of announcing her own bid for the White House, now in the absence of a Democratic nominee, since Joe Biden told us all yesterday that he would not seek re-election. I'm Andrew Kraft. Thanks for being with us here. We're in a new hour. We have a lot more top headlines left to get to. We're going to stay, though, with this pretty big one as well, because the question so many of you probably have, I have as well, is who might Kamala Harris choose as her running mate? And when does she need to do that by? We'll have some of these comments from some of these would-be contenders. A lot of names have been thrown out there. We'll bring some of them to you when we come back.
This is the movie that we're gonna make. We're in probably the action scenes. Nice to beat you. I'm literally trying to murder us.
Only one man can help you.
Go. It's Kevin Hart.
Well, how do you like your teeth?
How much of it is that? Like $200? No, they're free.
I'm about to spill the tea.
Here we go. Boom shakalaka. Mrs. Walker, I'm only too happy to see you when you actually have something wrong with you.
But I haven't even had a cup of tea.
Tea?
Who are you in decide what's natural.
I'm a doctor.
Just give me something for the throat and I'll be on my way.
Why don't we let the doctor do his work, Mr. Penn? How are you feeling today? Mr. Strain is next.
Game Show Central is the place to get your fast, fun, and sometimes frenzied fix of trivia, teamwork, and triumphs. And it's all streaming free.
This warmth just fills my soul. He's every happy moment of my life.
I'm glad I came.
I'm glad you got stuck in here.
I got stuck in here. You?
I had a really great time with you tonight. So are you gonna work tomorrow?
I will.
I guess I'll see you then.
But you and Parker clicked, and that didn't happen with anyone else. Maybe he needs a chance to fall in love with you again.
And welcome back here to Live Now from Fox. I'm Andrew Kraft. So we want to get into that question that is top of mind for so many, wondering, well, who will Kamala Harris's running mate be? I want to put up some of these names we've compiled here at Live Now and at the Fox News channel about who's being not necessarily considered, but talked about. Kentucky Governor Andy Beshear, Transportation Secretary Pete Buttigieg, North Carolina Governor Roy Cooper, Arizona Senator Mark Kelly, Maryland Governor Wes Moore, California Governor Gavin Newsom, Illinois Governor J.B. Pritzker, Pennsylvania Governor Josh Shapiro, and Minnesota Governor Tim Walz. Well, some of these would-be contenders, well, they're out there today, and they're getting asked about this by reporters following them, including Pennsylvania Governor Josh Shapiro in Pittsburgh today. Let's watch.
You can ask me 100 questions.
Governor, tell me, do you feel like the top ticket is in a better position now than it was a week ago?
I think just look at the last 24 hours. The vice president has done an incredible job of consolidating the Democratic Party behind her. I think I just read she raised over $80 million in mostly low-dollar donations in the first 24 hours. State delegations, including Pennsylvania, the LG and I were on the phone with them earlier today, making sure they lined up. State delegations across the country are lining up and pledging delegates to her. I think there's real excitement and energy. And listen, to be able to pit the prosecutor against a guy with 34 felonies, I like that matchup. I feel pretty good about it.
Are you worried about President Biden's health at all?
No, I've had many conversations with President Biden. Last Saturday, after the tragic shooting in Butler, he was obviously on top of every detail and was there to make sure we had everything we needed to make sure that our fellow Pennsylvanians were safe after the shooting. And again, let me just express my condolences to the Comprador family, the two individuals who I know are coming out of critical condition, doing a little bit better, but we got to continue to pray for them. And of course, the former president, who through that attempted assassination was shot in the ear. We can't have that in our politics. And President Biden was there that night to make sure we had what we needed, just as he's been there for me every step of the way when we needed him here in Pennsylvania. When a section of I-95 collapsed in his neck of the woods, to the everyday work that we're doing, like what we just announced here in Western Pennsylvania, a massive investment in addressing climate change and putting people to work. Every conversation I have with him, he cares about Pennsylvania. He's delivering for Pennsylvania, and he's there to support our work. And when I spoke to him a few minutes after he issued his statement this weekend, he made very clear that he was putting his country first, and made very clear that he was all in for the vice president, and made very clear that he's prepared to continue to do this job full speed ahead for the next many months.
Well, you say
How important is it to win PA? It's an interest to win quite look, Pennsylvania is the ball game. I think it is the swingiest of all swing states in the country. I think it's probably a fairly bipartisan consensus that whoever wins Pennsylvania wins the presidency.
The last two presidential races came down to 44,000 votes and 80,000 votes. So I don't think it's a stretch to imagine this race will be close as well. But I'm going to do everything in my power to work hard to make sure Kamala Harris is the 47th president of the United States.
Would you being on the ticket help her do that?
First woman
the
president
has a deeply personal
record break
decision
every time,
to make
so.
as to who she wants to run with, who she wants to govern with, and who she thinks is prepared to help her lead the nation. She should make that decision free from any sort of political pressure.
What do you say to Republicans who are calling on Biden to resign now?
I think they're just playing games. This is what these folks do. I think they're now nervous about the matchup between Donald Trump and former prosecutor and Kamala Harris. And I think they're just casting about trying to figure out what to do.
I have time for one or two more.
Hey, Brian.
Can you talk about, yourself being a former prosecutor and the vice president being a former prosecutor? What does that bring? I guess, what does she bring?
Look, as prosecutors, Vice President and I both understand the importance of the rule of law and to apply the rule and to apply the law without fear and without favor. We both understand how to put people before powerful interests. A lot of the work that I was able to do as Attorney General, particularly on the consumer side, is as a result of the hard work that then Attorney General Harris did in California, paving the way for the work we did here in Pennsylvania and other AGs do across the country. I think we know how to sniff out bullshit, and we know the difference between right and wrong, and that's what we need in a commander-in-chief.
Can you elaborate at all on the conversation with her yesterday?
I'm not going to get into the specifics of my conversation with her or the president beyond what I said before, which is that the entire conversation was devoted to figuring out how we can work together to defeat Donald Trump.
Thank you, guys.
Thanks, everybody. Enjoy a cookie, and make sure if you're from out of town, you keep coming back to Eaton Park. This place is awesome, and you can find one. Brooks, you can find one pretty much anywhere, right?
All right, Pennsylvania Governor Josh Shapiro there, getting all the questions about all this news happening in the Democratic Party. He did throw his backing behind Vice President Harris just yesterday. He said the contrast in this race could not be clearer, and the road to victory in November runs right through Pennsylvania, where this collective work began. I will do everything I can to help elect Kamala Harris as the 47th president of the United States. Well, speaking of some of these names that have been floated out there, including Maryland Governor Wes Moore, Fox 5 in D.C. caught up with them. Here's what he had to say.
Speculation that he might join the Democratic ticket as Harris's running mate. Since the announcement yesterday, Moore had been one of many names floated as potential vice presidential candidates.
Sorry, did you tell her that you would not be interested in the job and to remove your name from any consideration?
I have expressed that I love my job and I have no intention of leaving. I think that, where she goes is going to be a very personal decision for her. I think she can have wonderful options to be able to consider. I just know that I do not plan on leaving. I have no intention of leaving.
Government propaganda, yes.
I want to stay as the governor of Maryland.
Moore, meanwhile, says he will campaign for the Harris ticket.
Meanwhile, Republican.
I just wanted to get that in there as well. I would thank our Fox 5 DC team there with Jim Loke. But in the meantime here, these are the names that have been floated out there as well. And so Harris has a lot to choose from. Kentucky Governor there, Andy Beshear, you heard from Wes Moore of Maryland. You heard from Josh Shapiro of Pennsylvania. So next up, the DNC's Rules Committee will meet on Wednesday at 2 p.m. to hammer out the timetable to nominate the party's 2024 presidential nominee. And so we will be airing that live here on Live Now from Fox. The meeting will be public. It will be available on the YouTube page of the DNC as well. We got a lot of reporting in from this press call that the DNC held there with reporters talking about timetables of the nomination. We were talking with Meg Kennard, essentially, that Harris could secure the number of delegates that she needs, and we're told that that has already happened tonight, thanks to California's Democratic delegates there as well. Andrew Solander with Axios saying that the virtual meeting of California delegates, former Speaker Pelosi made the motion to endorse Harris, and that endorsement gives Harris enough delegates to become the nominee. So this was a little earlier than anticipated. Reuters had an exclusive today that the Harris campaign aimed to lock in delegates by Wednesday night. Of course, they have done that now 2 nights earlier here as well. We also have more reporting, more details in from that very same call that I was talking about that the press had with some of these senior Democratic Party officials as well, in which some of them saying on the call this, that we're confident we'll have the process to select a presidential nominee by August the 7th, and then allow the time that person will need to meet the party's ballot access requirements. The process that will allow that to happen expeditiously as soon as a presidential nominee is selected, talking about the VP pick as well there. So Alex Gaetano at the Hill has kind of this outline from that very same call. The DNC has a new plan with Biden out. Move forward with the virtual roll call to have a presidential nominee by August the 7th. On a call with reporters, Harris's name was never mentioned. The DNC would use an electronic voting system, and candidates have to have at least 300 delegate signatures there as well. So I want to make sure we got all of that in. Let's take a quick commercial break. When we come back, though, we're going out to Capitol Hill. We're hearing from House Minority Leader Hakeem Jeffries, also many former Congresswoman Sheila Jackson Lee's colleagues there on the floor with a tribute to her life, her career after her passing late Friday night. All of that and more in 2 minutes.
I'm out here telling people how they can save money with Experian. With Experian, you can see your recurring subscriptions. And with one click, you can cancel it. I'd like that. It's so easy, I think even Asher can do it.
That's amazing. Thanks, bud.
Get started now with the Experian app. Did you know that aging begins in our cells? New one-a-day age factor defends against cellular aging from the inside. It has all the polyphenols that help defend cells against oxidative stress. One a day. Science that matters.
Where is Zero? Deploy the Royal Guard. I'm all geared up for battle.
I know I can do this. I have to.
Meet 3 women who have come to Rome to star in their very own romantic comedy.
I feel like I'm in The Lady in the Tramp. This is a real-life fairy tale.
My stomach burns.
What's natural? I'm a doctor. No.
Just give me something from the throat and I'll be on my way.
Why don't we let the doctor do his work, Mr. Fair?
Stomach burns like crazy. Just a second.
And welcome back here to Live Now from Fox. I'm Andrew Kraft. Live Now look there at the U.S. Capitol. House Minority Leader Hakeem Jeffries, the Democrat from New York, caught up with reporters today on Capitol Hill, and they asked him all about what's happening in the Democratic Party after Joe Biden has bowed out. Here's what he had to say.
Once in a decade or so recession-like situation, and set us on a positive path so that everyday Americans could thrive in every single zip code across America. Thanks to the leadership of President Biden and his partnership with Vice President Harris, dignity and decency and a democratic way of life was restored to the Oval Office in 1600 Pennsylvania Avenue. We owe a debt of gratitude to President Biden for his tremendous leadership, and I'm also thankful for the incredible partnership that he has had for the last 3.5 years with Vice President Kamala Harris.
My stomach is burning.
Well, leadership and I said this with Vice President Harris shortly. The House came back in the session today. The Senate does not come back to the session tomorrow. I'm excited for that meeting, and let me say this, that Vice President Kamala Harris has
All it is a little bit for your burning stomach.
She's excited the House Democratic caucus, and she's exciting the country. So I'm looking forward to sitting down with her in person in short order with Leader Schumer, and we'll have more to say about the path forward as soon as that meeting
My stomach burns, man.
Well, President Biden is going to continue to do his job. And he's put the country first. He's put the American people first. He's put hard-working American taxpayers first, which is what President Biden has always done. And as a result of his leadership, we've seen transformational change. Fixing our crumbling bridges, roads, tunnels, airports, our sewer and water systems, rescuing the economy from the once-in-a-century pandemic, gun safety legislation for the first time in 30 years, standing up for armed veterans, bringing domestic manufacturing jobs back home to the country, and passing the Inflation Reduction Act, which is the largest investment in combating the climate crisis in the history of the world. We still have more work to do. We still have to lower costs. We still have to end price gouging. We have to continue to grow the middle class, defend democracy, and fight for reproductive freedom. President Biden will continue to do that job along with Vice President Harris and Democrats in the House and the Senate.
This has been a few weeks of very intense discussions about Biden being at the top of the ticket. What light can you shed to the American public about the concerns that you conveyed to the president about staying on the top of the ticket?
It's a private conversation with President Joe Biden that will remain private.
Mr. Leader, I mean, there has been a lot of reporting about what was said and wasn't. So just for the record, can you just be clear? Did you ever tell the president that he could hurt Democrats' chances of taking back the majority if he stayed in the race? And secondly, what do you say to those, whether it's Ron Klain or congressional Republicans, who claim that Democratic Party leaders or elected officials push the president out?
President Joe Biden is a heroic, patriotic, and transformational figure. And he will go down in history as one of the greatest public servants of all time. That much is clear. I had a private conversation with President Biden to express the perspectives that were wide-ranging of the House Democratic Caucus. That conversation will remain private. In terms of my Republican colleagues, former President Donald Trump and extreme MAGA Republicans are having a meltdown right now. A complete and total meltdown. Why? Because their presidential nominee is unpopular. The extreme MAGA Republican policies are unpopular, including trying to impose a nationwide abortion ban on the American people. And their Project 2025 is unpopular. They're having a meltdown right now. All we want to do as Democrats is have a debate about moving the country forward and continuing to put people over politics.
Can you speak for just a moment to what the concerns you were hearing from members, in swing districts who were concerned about the president possibly dragging down ballot, and how this potentially changes that equation by changing the top of the ticket?
That's what we're looking forward to. We are going to do everything we need to do as House Democrats to win back control of the House of Representatives and vacate the extreme MAGA Republican majority on November 5th.
When is that meeting today, tomorrow?
We're waiting on Leader Schumer to get back into town, as well as to get exact confirmation from Vice President Harris. Thanks.
But you just have to see the signing of the majority that Harris is talking. The House Democratic Caucus should speak to what particularly the topics about her versus the president.
Well, we're looking at a frame of change versus the status quo. Moving the country forward versus Donald Trump and the extreme MAGA Republicans who want to turn back the clock. Defending freedom, like a woman's freedom to make her own reproductive health care decisions, versus the nationwide abortion ban that Donald Trump and the extreme MAGA Republicans want to jam down the throats of the American people. We're looking at building an economy from the middle out and the bottom up that works for everyday Americans versus the extreme MAGA Republican plans and Donald Trump's plans to drive a big tax cut down the throats of the American people that benefit the wealthy, the well-off, and the wealthy. Last question. I'm looking forward and excited for the meeting that we will have in short order with Vice President Kamala Harris. Thank you, everyone.
All right, there you have it. Hakeem Jeffries, the House Minority Leader, kind of previewing this meeting he and Senate Majority Leader Chuck Schumer are going to be having with Vice President Kamala Harris now as well. In the meantime, we're at 7:30 here on the West Coast, 10:30 there in Washington. We do want to take Capitol Hill. We'll be moving off the story from yesterday that all of you are still talking about, Joe Biden not seeking re-election. We have to get to some major stories and headlines regarding the former president, the Republican nominee for president, Donald Trump, in the wake of the attempt on his life there in Butler, Pennsylvania, now more than a week ago. And the director of the Secret Service, Kimberly Cheadle, coming under fire today on Capitol Hill for some of the perceived failures, oversight, inadequacies of the Secret Service under her command that led to this shooting attempt on Trump's life. I'll be breaking all of that down. What was gleaned today as she appeared before the House Oversight and Government Reform Committee? More on all of that in 2 minutes.
This competition is about understanding the fundamentals and traditions in sushi and Japanese cuisine.
I'm ready.
This could be anyone's game.
For everyone out there, follow your dreams. Welcome backstage.
I love you so much.
This is where you get all access.
I'm not supposed to be really having all these villains in my life.
Real drama, real celebrity. Watch now.
Our first female director, Sam Clifford.
Hey, Kathy. How do you know?
Should be tricking myself.
Can we get out of here? Do something that'll cheer us up?
All I have tried to do is whatever it takes to just get us back to our lives.
I care about you. I admire you. And I'm falling in love with you.
Theme music starts now.
Drop the bass!
Let's get down to business.
Go!
Get your DIY on.
Let's get dirty.
At home with Family Handyman. Stream free on the Roku channel.
Football fans are competitive, especially when it comes to tailgating. This season, we've got new teams, new super fans here in the middle of City Park in New Orleans. Oh, I'm getting excited.
May the best man and his machine win. Let's do this. This is the real deal.
And welcome back here to Live Now from Fox. I'm Andrew Kraft. Live Now look there at the U.S. Capitol. Secret Service Director Kimberly Cheadle said today that her agency failed in its mission to protect former President Donald Trump, as lawmakers of both major political parties demanded during a highly contentious congressional hearing that she resign over security failures that allowed a gunman to scale a roof and open fire at a campaign rally. Fox News Capitol Hill correspondent Aisha Hasni has more.
Today, you're just being completely dishonest. Tensions reaching a boiling point on Capitol Hill as the House Oversight Committee dragged Secret Service Director Kim Cheadle in to testify about the assassination attempt against former President Trump. But the grilling got few answers.
I don't want to speak to specifics of the event. Again, I'm not going to get into the specifics of the numbers of personnel that we had there. I don't have the details on the timeline. I'm unable to answer details of exactly how the individual accessed the roof. I can speak to you in generalities.
No, I don't want generalities.
The embattled director avoided specifics about the investigation, saying a report would be completed in 60 days.
This is not theater. This is not about jockeying. So the idea that a report will be finalized in 60 days is simply not acceptable.
Cheadle took full responsibility for what she called the worst Secret Service failure since the 1981 assassination attempt of President Ronald Reagan.
You know what Stuart Knight did when he was in charge at the time of the Secret Service? You know what he did afterwards?
He remained on duty.
He resigned.
But she refuses to resign.
I think that I am the best person to lead the Secret Service at this time.
Enraging Republicans.
He should be fired immediately and go back to Garden Dorito.
And frustrating Democrats so much that more are now calling on her to step down.
I will be joining the chairman in calling for the resignation of the director.
And that might be the last time the Hill sees Director Cheadle. She and Secretary Alejandro Mayorkas are declining to testify Tuesday at a House Homeland Security Committee hearing. In Washington, I'm Aisha Hasni, Fox News.
Aisha, thanks so much. In the meantime here, this is literally something you don't see every day. I want to put this up. This is a joint statement between the chairman of the Oversight Committee, the Republican, James Comer, and the ranking member, Democrat Jamie Raskin. A joint statement, both of them calling for U.S. Secret Service Director Kimberly Cheadle to resign. So not much has, in the way of bipartisanship, brought both parties together like some of these calls for Cheadle to resign from her post there. We're going to talk about all of this with my friend, national security analyst and retired Marine intelligence officer, Hal Kemper. He joins me. Hal, good to see you. Thanks for being with us here as well. What do you make of Cheadle's performance today before the committee? Is it defiance? Is it intransigence? Is it, a willingness to stay the course, stick to the mission of the Secret Service, get her agency in good working order here? We also have some more details. Our Capitol Hill reporters and producers have caught up with Speaker Johnson. He said that he met with Cheadle in a back room before the House Oversight hearing today. Johnson told Fox, quote, "It doesn't sound like she's going to resign." Johnson said, quote, "We're looking at all options for how to compel Cheadle to answer questions that she would not answer directly today." Hal, what conclusions can we draw from her appearance today?
Andrew, that was one of the worst hearings I've ever heard for the person testifying. It's rare that you see such uniform consensus on both sides of the aisle. They were just uniformly condemnatory of her answers. They were rather vague. She didn't want to get to specifics. And I think the way Congress looks at it is, okay, the investigative process is important for criminal prosecution purposes, although the perpetrator of the criminal prosecution is dead, so there's limited avenues on that, unless they can find some larger conspiracy. But, the bottom line was almost every member of Congress on that committee at some point kind of blew up and had it with their answers. And I've just never seen anything quite like that before. And when you see the ranking member along with the chairman both signing a document like that, calling for resignation, that's pretty strong. I imagine they're going to bump it up one to her boss, which is Secretary Mayorkas at the Department of Homeland Security. My guess would be that they'll put some pressure on DHS to do something, and of course put a lot of pressure on the White House. President Biden hasn't really fired many people. I don't know who he's fired at the cabinet rank. So far, he's had a few resignations, but none of them under dire pressure that I recall. And this is a big switch. So I don't know what's going to happen there, but you can tell Congress is not happy with her.
So Hal, this is interesting here. Of course, Nancy Mace was kind of in a back and forth with Cheadle today as well. And Nancy Mace just put this out. She said she just filed a privileged motion to impeach Kim Cheadle, director of the Secret Service. She says this will force a vote within the next 48 hours. So I'm not entirely sure about the mechanics or the logistics of, impeaching someone like the Secret Service director. Of course, this is not a cabinet position, so I'm not entirely sure how that would work here. Cheadle, though, did acknowledge, Hal, that the Secret Service's solemn mission is to protect our nation's leaders. She says on July the 13th, we failed. She called it the most significant operational failure in decades. And Hal, I brought receipts, as the kids say, about previous Secret Service directors and what led them to resign. So under Obama, that was Director Julia Pearson. In 2014, she resigned on October the 1st, 12 days after the September 19th, 2014 White House intrusion. Maybe you remember that. Obama and the First Lady were not at the White House at the time. No serious injuries were sustained. Pearson resigned in the wake of that. Also, Stuart Knight was the Secret Service director under President Reagan when Reagan was shot in March of 1981. So recall that exchange between California Democratic Congressman Ro Khanna and Cheadle, asked about Stuart Knight's tenure as the Secret Service director in the wake of the attempted assassination on Reagan's life. Reagan was shot March the 30th, 1981. Secret Service Director Stuart Knight left his post December 1st of that year, a full 8 months later, Hal. So there is precedence here. I mean, 8 months is a long time, and maybe that's what Cheadle was alluding to here. This has only been a week since the shooting there in Butler, Pennsylvania. But it doesn't seem like Cheadle is going anywhere, at least in her own words. I mean, why, though? What do you think her thinking is?
I'm assuming that whatever she's saying is said in conference with certainly the White House and certainly with the Secretary of DHS, because she's under DHS, but obviously with this situation, she has direct line of communications to the White House. So I don't think she would be saying that unless she had some sort of communication with the White House, if not the president, certainly the chief of staff or someone, as to what their position on this is going to be. Now, this hearing today changes things. She was already under a lot of pressure. She'd already pushed back answering. She gets in there 9 days later. And there were questions that were asked, which were basic tactical questions about number of people there, about where was the perimeter, why wasn't there someone on the roof. These are really, I mean, these are things that anybody in charge of a security situation like that, especially if something went wrong, you'd be getting answers to these questions right away. There wouldn't be a delay. You'd know all the answers to all these questions that were being asked. And many of the members of Congress turned around and said, look, this is not a hard question. You should know this. And they were absolutely right. She should know this. And then deferring it to some investigation by the FBI, which may not be done for 60 days, that certainly does not satisfy members of Congress, and that's what she did. So it was rather testy at times. Nancy Mace was rather graphic in her terminology. They had to refer about decorum in Capitol Hill because of the particular word that she used. And so that was rather interesting, but there was other words that were a little less blunt, but certainly pretty darn strong.
Hal, I mean, frankly, some of these members were apoplectic, that they weren't getting answers. Kind of what you were alluding to here. Very basic answers that you would even expect from local or state law enforcement in the wake of some type of shooting that doesn't involve a former president, that you would get those answers almost in the immediate aftermath here. Hal, also we know that Fox has learned Cheadle and Mayorkas have declined to testify tomorrow at what's going to be this House Homeland Security Committee hearing. FBI Director Christopher Wray also declined last week, but he will appear before the House Judiciary Committee on Wednesday of this week. So Cheadle, Mayorkas, Wray, they were asked to appear voluntarily tomorrow. They are not under subpoena at this point. So they're not going to be there. They declined the invitation there as well. We do know, though, who is going to be there at this hearing tomorrow. The commander of the Pennsylvania State Police, his name as well, we have here, Colonel Christopher Paris. We also know that the national president of the Fraternal Order of Police is going to be there as well. This comes after members of the House Homeland Security Committee today visited the site in Butler, Pennsylvania, of where the shooting took place. How we'll get to that in just a moment. Let's kind of transition into where the investigation is right now. So you have this bipartisan coterie of members of Congress on the ground in Butler today. And Kim Cheadle was asked today, Hal, whether or not she had visited the site yet. She had not. Stunning.
It was rather surprising. That was something that came out that I was a little bit shocked. I would have thought after something like this that the director would have made a special trip fairly quick to go out there and walk the ground and certainly talk with those who were there. There's a lot of issues that come up on this. I would point out that what the FBI is doing is an investigation. It's a criminal investigation. There's also an intelligence investigation as well. She kind of opened the door on that. It was interesting. She was asked to dispel some of these conspiracy theories, and they went down a list. And one was this a staged event? She said no. And it's like, okay, was this a conspiracy amongst high-level government officials to conduct this assassination? She said no. And then was asked, was a foreign country or foreign nation involved with this assassination? And that's where she hedged. And she said, not that I know yet. And I have to tell you, I did a kind of a double take when she said that. That means that what she's basically saying is there is an active investigation of some sort of thing that they're looking at to see if there was any foreign country involved with this. Doesn't mean they are. And that was on the list of things that were under the conspiracy theory thing that they're trying to get dispelled. But she didn't say a flat out no on the last one. And I just found that rather interesting. And that may be something the FBI is trying to check out, because whatever Crook's online profile, whoever he was talking to, that takes a while, especially when he's using things like online gaming platforms and stuff. That's very difficult to track that down. So they may be trying to work that out. Maybe that's part of why she was, I'll give her a little bit of benefit of the doubt here. There may be some things they're looking at that she really cannot talk about, I say, because the sources and methods involved.
Okay, speaking of his social media profile, of which it is very scant, according to a federal law enforcement source, this Steam account mentioned in that lawmaker briefing last week was not Crooks's account. There was a lot of back and forth about that piece of information that came out of this unclassified briefing with all senators on Capitol Hill. And so now we are learning that it wasn't Crooks's account. There was some reporting to suggest it was a fake account last week, and now here at Fox we have confirmed that as well. So even though, to that point, it's beside the fact there is not much of a digital footprint of Crooks's here. Hal, while we have you though, because we haven't really talked about the investigation and where it goes from here, what about this building itself? This is drone video shot by some of these lawmakers, or possibly shot by Fox today, at the site in Butler, Pennsylvania. That is the American Glass Research Building from which Crooks fired from. Obviously, it's been and likely will continue to be a huge point of contention there in the investigation, Hal. A short while ago this morning, Cheadle testified that the building was outside the Secret Service perimeter. In the days after the shooting last week, a federal law enforcement source told Fox that the building was outside of the Secret Service's secure area, and that local law enforcement were responsible for everything outside, Hal, of that perimeter. However, Pennsylvania State Police wrote in a statement it was not tasked with securing the building. And some of these Butler Township officials have repeatedly said Butler Township Police strictly tasked with traffic, Hal. So you're seeing still, more than a week later, Hal, this kind of back and forth battle between federal agencies and local and state agencies, maybe pointing the finger at each other. Is that helpful, Hal? How does that foster a good investigation if the jurisdictions on the ground aren't on the same page and they're blaming each other?
Oh, it's not going to be helpful at all. If that's what they go into, it's going to cause some serious harm to the Secret Service going forward all over the place. that was something that everyone feared. You know, it's very common within these events that the Secret Service will take like the inner perimeter, if you will, because they have enough manpower to deal with that. And they'll do things like counter snipers sometimes, and they have some other things that they will bring in. But the larger area that has to be covered, they don't have the resources to do that. They have to work with local law enforcement. They have to have a very good working relationship. And that was one of the lines of questioning today that was going to the committee was, where was the perimeter? You know, what was being communicated? And of course, Director Cheadle was not providing the answers that they wanted to hear. They were very frustrated with that. But this is the issue that comes up, and this is what you're going to hear tomorrow. At least that would be my anticipation from the head of the FPOA, and also from the head of the Pennsylvania State Police, state troopers will be saying the same thing. They will probably explain to members of Congress how this coordination works with the Secret Service. But the bottom line is, on all these events, Secret Service is in charge. They own it. And if something wasn't assigned, that's not local law enforcement to figure that out.
Okay.
They have to be tasked. And if they weren't tasked, Secret Service owns that 100%. And so maybe that's some of the reluctance that you saw with Director Cheadle. She may be getting some answers that she really doesn't want to talk about in a public forum, at least not yet. And that's kind of, I think, what the members thought too.
Okay. We also learned this from the hearing, that Cheadle says the agency had been told about a quote-unquote suspicious person at the Trump rally 2 to 5 times before the shooting. Hal, she also revealed that the roof where crooks opened fire had been identified as a potential vulnerability days before the rally. And then coming off the heels of that pretty big bombshell in the Wall Street Journal on Friday about the usage of drones by the shooter to, conduct some type of reconnaissance of the area in which he was going to carry out this shooting. Stunning. I mean, where do we go from here, learning all of these details about the building, about suspicious person, about usage of drones here? It's a pretty, unfortunate cocktail of news items, is it not?
Oh, there's a lot of things that come out of this. First off, this 20-year-old kid was put all this stuff together was pretty remarkable. And that's one of the reasons we're looking at who was he talking to, how was he learning all these things that he knew what to do. But with the drone thing, you may recall 2015, President Maduro survived an assassination attempt using a drone down in Venezuela. Drones, you and I have talked about drones constantly in conflicts in Ukraine, certainly down in the Middle East. Drones have become a ubiquitous part of not just warfare, but armed conflict, of terrorism, and they're a tool of assassination. In this case, he used the drone for reconnaissance to gather information. Mm-hmm. What's interesting is he used a drone to do reconnaissance to find that roof to get up on. My question would be, and I didn't feel that there was a good answer that came out of that today, although it was asked from Director Cheadle, was does the Secret Service use drones to go over a site like that? And that may not be part of the methodology they used on that particular site, but you can get a lot of information from that kind of reconnaissance. So that is a bit of a bombshell right there, is the fact that he was using drones. I can tell you personally, after the attack, the sniper attack on the Route 91 concert, I was out there a few days later, and I was talking to one of the top security officials there. We started talking about counter sniper techniques, and within 10 minutes, our conversation switched to drones. There is a recognition within the security community that drones are a huge vulnerability. And you can imagine what that situation would look like in Butler if instead of a sniper on a roof, which was remarkable how far he got, a swarm of drones had come in. And one of the things we're going to have to look at after this is counter drone capabilities, which is not an easy thing to talk about. If you start taking drones out of the sky, whatever method you use, those drones, there is that basic law of gravity, they will come down. And if you start taking drones out of the sky over a crowd, drones are going to drop on people in the crowd. That's a decision point you have to make.
I see.
Which is it worth to do that? So those are one of the learning things that comes out of this all these revelations that we've been hit with.
All right, Hal, it's Monday. Let's make a prediction if you can. I won't. By Friday, does Kim Cheadle still have her job?
I am dubious that she will. I don't want to put odds on that.
Okay.
You know, I've been born in Vegas, but I'm not going to put any odds on it. And but I would be dubious. I'd say right now, based on on today, less than 50%.
All right, Hal Kemper, we got to leave it at that. Thanks so much for your time. Talk soon.
Okay, thank you, Andrew.
All right, in the meantime here, let's take our final commercial break of the hour. When we come back, you're going to be watching quite a sizable portion of that hearing today. We'll see you in 2 minutes.
You don't need to be a movie buff to love Cinevault classics. You just need to love movies.
You got it. Madly, wildly desperate.
Movies with adventure.
We're into something bigger than we thought.
Laughs.
This is terribly complicated.
And romance.
Don't you know I got a low boiling point?
But hey, movie buffs are welcome here too.
What an excellent idea.
Cinevault classics. No identification. No purse. No wallet. No passport.
My name is Red, and I'm like this. If the women don't find you handsome, they should at least find you handy.
And welcome back here to Live Now from Fox as we quickly approach the top of the next hour. What we want to do right now, we want to play at least 30 minutes of the hearing today with the Secret Service Director Kim Cheadle being grilled by lawmakers, many of whom in a bipartisan fashion, Democrats and Republicans alike, have called on her to resign in the wake of the agency's handling of the response and the preparation into the Butler, Pennsylvania Trump campaign rally. Let's watch.
Now, there are some things my friends on one particular side of the aisle don't really want to talk about, like AR-15s and access to them by a 20-year-old, or anybody for that matter. Presumably, Director Cheadle, the ubiquity of weapons, guns in America, especially assault weapons or semi-automatic weapons, that's helped your job and the mission of your agencies, right? It's made it less complicated, isn't that true?
I'm sorry, I'm not understanding your question.
Real simple. More guns, especially dangerous ones, have made your job protecting people easier. Is that not right?
I think from every...
Director Cheadle, this is simple English. More guns, do they make your job more complicated or less complicated in protecting these 36 clients and visiting heads of state and heads of government that come to Washington?
I think the Secret Service needs to take into account...
I didn't ask that. I'm sorry. I asked a simple question, which deserves a simple answer. The ubiquity of guns, dangerous weapons in America like AR-15s, has that made your job, that is to say the mission of the Secret Service, easier or more difficult?
I think the threat environment for protecting our Secret Service protectees is always difficult, and that's dynamic, and it's always evolving.
We stipulate it's always difficult. Again, this is a simple one. Does the ubiquity of guns make your job easier or more difficult today?
I understand the Second Amendment rights of individuals.
I didn't ask that question. I'm not questioning the Second Amendment. I'm asking a simple analysis, Director Cheadle. And I can tell you, you're not making my job easier in terms of assessing
No, it's not making it
your
difficult. Just say no.
qualification for continuing on as director.
Just say no.
Please
Just say no.
answer the question. You're the head of the Secret Service.
But that's
You're
a no.
speaking on behalf of 8,000 members who put their lives on the line. We just had a failure by your own admission. Do guns make your job easier or harder?
I think the job of the Secret Service is difficult on every day, and we need to make sure that we are mitigating all threats, whether that be...
That isn't my question. That is not my question, and now I think you're evading the answer, which is not a hard one.
I am sorry that you feel that way, sir.
How else could I feel, Director Cheadle, when you're clearly avoiding a direct answer to a very simple declarative question? We almost lost a presidential candidate the other day. A 20-year-old had access to his father's AR-15 and got on top of a roof within 500
I don't fear fault that. I don't fear fault. I fear fault that.
And I'm asking you, did the availability of that AR-15, which is replicated all across America, make your job harder or easier? And you're not willing to answer that question? And you think and you wonder why we might have a lack of confidence in your continued ability to direct this agency?
It's not gonna make it harder.
I understand your question.
It's not gonna make it harder. But it's gonna make it harder because that's an AR-15.
Because it's the environment that the Secret Service works in every day.
That doesn't tell me anything. That's the environment we work in. I had an attack on my office a year ago. I know a little bit about violence.
But that's a yes, it make it harder because that's something where you can't see from far. But that's a yes, but
he beat one of my staffers 8 times with a baseball bat on the head. We live with the threat of violence.
But that's a yes, miss. You should answer yes. Don't afraid.
Secret Service would be helpful, and I'm sorry you've chosen to evade it. I yield back. Chair now recognizes Mr. Grothman from Wisconsin.
Thank you. When this guy took the shots, he climbed the ladder to get on the roof, correct?
I'm unable to answer details of exactly how the individual accessed the roof at this time.
Do you know when if he did use the ladder, do you know when the ladder was placed there? Was the ladder there 2 days before, just the night before? Do you have any information as to when the ladder got there?
I would like to be able to answer those questions. The FBI is still conducting an investigation.
How did the rifle get to the roof?
Well, you got ask someone that.
Again, sir, at this time, I'm unable to answer questions to provide clarity.
Have they cleaned the roof since the assassination attempt?
Have they cleaned the roof?
Right. Has anything been done to the roof? Is it just like it was, 10 days ago, or not? Has anything been done to the roof?
I don't have an answer for that.
Okay. Were President Trump's normal agents normally assigned to him there that day?
Yes.
There was these were the same agents that were always there?
Yes, sir. The people that are assigned to his detail were working on that day.
Okay, there's stuff on the internet that says they were not there that day, but these are the same agents who are routinely there.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Do we know which agents fired the shots that finally took down the potential assassin?
Yes, sir, I do.
Could you give us those names or the background of those agents?
I would not offer their name up in this setting, but it was one of our technical officers, our counter snipers.
Okay, so can we privately get those names, the committee?
I am certain that we can make names available privately.
Okay. Do we know where all the shots landed? First of all, how many shots did that potential assassin, how many shots came out of the rifle?
So again, I would hesitate to offer that information as the FBI is conducting an investigation.
Have we got the bullets from all the shots?
Again, that would be the responsibility of the FBI to collect that evidence.
Okay. Do we have the correspondence, from the shooter? Has that been recovered from his phone, whatever?
Obviously, that it make it
Again, I
harder
would have to
to-
defer you to the FBI for details on that investigation.
Okay. You spent some time trying to change the makeup of the Secret Service. Okay, you feel they're whatever, too high a percentage are men. Does this affect at all who you are hiring for the Secret Service?
I've spent my time as the director trying to increase the number of people that we hire in the Secret Service so that we have the best and the brightest, and that's been my concentration as the director.
Okay, you're not hiring men because of your desire to hit certain targets?
I am hiring the best qualified candidates that put in an application that want to work for our great organization.
Okay. Next question. The shooter obtained a direct sight of President Trump from the position on the rooftop. I assume that is not something that should ever happen. It should never happen. Do you want to elaborate a little on how that happened, or what you wish you had done differently, or would do differently next time there's a Trump rally?
Again, sir, the facts of this particular event are still unfolding. 9 days, there have been a number of reports that have been out there. So I do not want to provide information that perhaps would contradict something that has been erroneously reported or is not factual. But there clearly was a mistake, and we will take every effort to make sure that this never happens again.
Could you elaborate why you want 1/3 of the Secret Service to be women?
I've never stated that I want 1/3 of the Secret Service to be women.
30% or something, you had some target, no? Okay.
Would you have a yield?
I'll yield.
So what was erroneously reported? You said, to Mr. Grothman's question, you said something was erroneously reported. What are you referring to?
I'm referring to...
His question was in the context of the shooter using a ladder to get on the building. What was erroneously reported? Because you won't tell us anything, but you'll tell us something that wasn't reported accurately?
I'm saying, sir, that there have been a number of reports that are out there that have been speculation, and until we have the actual facts, I don't want to report anything that would contradict speculation that has been out there.
Thank you, gentleman, for yielding.
Chair recognizes Mr. Cristiamonte from Illinois. Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you, Mr. Ranking Member, for bringing us together this morning. One question I get asked a lot from my constituents is, what can Congress actually do to stop this from happening again? And I'd like to share a graphic from a very recent study conducted by Professor Robert Pape, a world-renowned expert in combating political violence. The graphic shows that 74% of Americans want this Congress to come together to denounce political violence of all stripes. And you can tell it's across party lines. I commend the chair and ranking member for putting out the statement the other day condemning political violence. And to further this effort, I'd like to ask all my colleagues to join Dr. Brad Wenstrup and me in introducing a resolution that we think can secure unanimous House passage in deploring and condemning political violence. And we will be circulating that resolution shortly. Director Cheadle, as you know, the shooter began shooting at 6:11 p.m. Eastern on July 13th. NBC reported that at 5:51 p.m., 20 minutes before the shooting began, the state police informed the Secret Service of their concern. Now, the rally was not paused at that point, correct?
No.
And according to NBC, just 2 minutes later, at 5:53 p.m., the Secret Service notified its snipers about the gunman. The rally wasn't paused at that point either, correct?
No.
Let me show you some video footage by rally goers. If you could play the video on the screen up here. This was taken 2 minutes before the shooting started. If you could turn up the volume.
We have people that
Ma'am, that doesn't look like suspicious behavior. That looks like threatening behavior to me. And the rally wasn't paused at that point either, correct?
I can tell you, as I stated earlier, sir, that the moment that the shift surrounding the president were aware of an actual threat.
That's a threat, right there. The guy's on the roof and everybody's yelling at him.
Yes.
And directing the officer's attention to him. The rally was not paused at that point, correct?
We are currently still combing through communications and when communications were passed.
Well, I can point you to this communication. It's 2 minutes before the shot started ringing out. Director Cheadle, yes or no? Was there ever a moment where the Secret Service actually considered pausing the rally?
The Secret Service would have paused the rally had they known or been.
So the answer is no.
An actual threat.
The answer is no. Correct?
I can speak to you in generalities.
No, I don't want generalities. I want
all of the
specifics.
communication.
The answer is no. You did not consider pausing the rally, correct?
The people that are in charge of protecting the president on that day would never bring the former president out if there was a threat that had been identified.
Well, they did, because we've now identified 3 points in the 20 minutes before the shooting that the threat emerged. Let me point you to something else, which is the building that the shooter was perched on, seen here. This building is called the AGR building. I'm sure that you're familiar with it. It's no more than 150 yards from the stage where Donald Trump stood. Yet the security perimeter was drawn such that the AGR building was placed outside of it. Director Cheadle, according to the Washington Post, the AR-15 styled rifle used in the shooting had a range of 400 to 600 yards, and therefore the AGR building was clearly within rifle range of the stage, correct?
Yes.
NBC News has reported that in the days before the rally, the Secret Service had identified the building as a vulnerability that required special attention, correct?
That's reporting from NBC?
Yes.
So I am still looking into an active investigation.
I know, but it's been 9 days. I mean, you should know that, right? And yet, despite the fact that the AGR building was in rifle range of the stage, and it was flagged as a vulnerability, this building was put outside of the Secret Service's security perimeter. And I respectfully submit the Secret Service must expand its security perimeter to account for the kinds of weapons that can be used outside the perimeter to endanger the protectees inside the perimeter, ma'am. Let me turn your attention to some conspiracy theories that have been circulating and ask you to comment on them. First, you have not found evidence that the incident was a staged shooting, right?
Correct.
And you haven't found evidence that this was a result of a conspiracy of high-ranking government officials, correct?
Correct.
And you have not found evidence that this incident was in fact directed or perpetrated by a foreign state or entity, right?
And that's the last question, but I'll let the director answer that, please.
Not at this time.
Thank you, I yield back.
Gentleman's time's expired. Chair now recognizes Mr. Cloud from Texas.
Thank you. I just wanted to confirm there was only one counter sniper who took one shot. Is that
We had multiple counter sniper teams.
yeah, on the premises, but is only one took one shot? Is that correct, or only one?
Correct.
Okay. How many spent shell casings were found on the roof?
Again, I would have to defer you to the FBI's criminal investigation.
Okay. Word is that the car was rigged with explosives.
Again, sir, I'd have to defer you to the FBI's investigation.
Okay, you're not curious about, you don't communicate with them? No. Okay. CNN reported that the Secret Service did not sweep the building the shooter was used to shoot President Trump and other attendees. Is that true or false?
So we are conducting a mission insurance investigation and will depend on the information that we obtain from our investigations.
Okay. The Secret Service knew there was a suspicious person anywhere from 8 minutes before President walked on stage to 30 to 60 minutes. There are different reports. Was President Trump or his team notified of the threat?
I think there's a difference and a distinction between suspicious
person
and threat.
Yeah.
So we are going back and looking at communications to know when the information about a suspicious person was passed to Secret Service personnel.
Okay, but was President Trump or his team notified?
Again, we are going back and looking to make sure that we have the exact information of when those notifications were made and who those notifications were made to.
Okay. I think it's troubling for a lot of us that the number one question everyone in America is wondering is why was the roof left open? And after 9 days, we should at least maybe have a little bit of that information. And when you come to this committee hearing and you don't have anything to say about that, it's very, very troubling. Did you review the security plan for this event?
I personally do not review security plans for events that take place across the country.
Any of them?
We have a number of events.
Who's the top level official who reviews the security plans?
There's a number of people that review security plans.
Who's ultimately responsible for signing off on a security plan?
It's a conjunction of personnel. There are people on the ground, there are supervisors on the detail, there are people at headquarters.
So there's not one person who says, okay, this is good, it's copacetic, we're going for it?
I think much in the way that we build our security plans, where there are multiple
No doubt
layers.
there's teams working different aspects of it, but ultimately, isn't there an individual who signs off on the plan?
Much like how we design our security plans, they're multi-layered, there are multiple layers.
So there's no accountability?
There is accountability, sir.
There's, this is what, whether it's the FBI or Fauci or anything, it's time after time after time, these multiple layers of accountability turn into layers of plausible deniability in agency after agency after agency. That's got to be fixed, because you keep coming here and expecting, yes, you're saying I'm responsible, but, and you're accountable for it, but then there's nothing. What do you mean by that? I mean, you're saying you're going to keep your job, right?
I assure you, sir, that if we determine through the course of our investigation that someone or people need to be held accountable, we will do so.
What level of, if President Biden, God forbid, had been shot and killed, would you think that was worthy of resignation?
I would do the same thing that I'm doing here, where I would want to make sure that we are conducting an investigation, that there is continuity in that investigation, and that we could find the answers
You do not
to
think
what
the
happened.
assassination of somebody under your details is worthy of resignation?
I think that this event was tragic and deserves answers.
The thing that you've said so far is that you want to make sure that this never happens again. The thing is, everyone in America knows it's not the job description that you're tasked with. The job description you're tasked with is to make sure it never happens, period. One of your goals in the strategic plan is to champion diversity, equity, inclusion, and accessibility. You've accomplished the accessibility part. What standards, do you keep the same standards for all applicants and all, does every Secret Service agent meet the same qualifications, or do you have different standards for different people?
Yes, sir. Everyone who moves through the application process has to meet the same standards to become a special agent.
Okay. The trouble I think we're having with right now, so far, you gave a lame excuse for sloped roof. You said that local law enforcement's job was to cover up the building before backtracking on that. We were told that President Trump's team did not ask for security before you backtracked on that. You haven't provided the audio recording that this committee, the chairman, requested that was due Thursday. You didn't give us an advance copy of your opening statement. Yet there was reporting on it somewhere else. There seems to be more information from YouTube videos than you're able to provide for us, and anyone. You're in charge of the investigation of your own failure. So how does anybody in America investigation as being anything transparent and genuine?
That's the last question. Sir, I've been a Secret Service agent for nearly 30 years.
How long time me I do it a month, so I'm up on a week, I me do it and stop. That's why me I finish it up now.
Honor,
Then if that
loyalty,
means if
and
you take
courage.
you months and you
And I'm
have to
doing
be
that in
long
this
time.
space, and I assure
Yeah,
this
come and do it and stop, me
that
no do
I
it straight.
provide answers
I know,
that we have a full
you
and
have to
complete
stop.
report, in addition to cooperating with all of the other investigations that are ongoing.
Chair, I recognize Mr. Connor from California.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I want to thank the
Me enjoy doing it though.
ranking member for convening this hearing on a bipartisan basis.
Guys,
I join
I'll
them
be back
in
another day.
condemning the
I'm gonna go.
assassination attempt on the former
Not you,